If you're going to do something, do it multiple times. Keep going. Don't stop. See the wall. Run through it. You can't go back and say, hey, I did something one time and it didn't work, because that doesn't work for anybody. Like, it just doesn't.
That never works. Adam,
Sir?
you're back.
Yes, sir.
Is this your second podcast?
It is.
Well,
Second podcast.
Welcome back. Got a face for radio, so we figured we'd bring you back on. There is a YouTube video, but I don't think anybody watches it on YouTube. Very few people. We don't. It's not really dynamic. We're not doing anything.
No.
We have to like dance around or arm wrestle or
Weird stuff.
Something weird. So I don't think we did this the first time, but did you bring a dad joke?
I did. You made me look one up.
Fire away. See what you got. First dad joke ever.
What do you call a pudgy psychic?
I don't know.
A fortune teller. It's terrible.
It's not bad. So I had taken Uber yesterday, which I did.
Okay.
Yes, part of the joke, but yes, I took an Uber yesterday, and when I got in the Uber, the guy's like, do you mind if I put some music on? I was like, no, not at all. And then he asked, Kiss? And I was like, let's listen to the music first and see how it goes.
I actually like that joke. That's pretty good. I like it. Yeah,
I'm not sure. Let's do the music first, and we'll see how it goes. All right, but bump. That being said, we are going to talk about, because this has been your world since you got into the fitness industry, which has been everything from 24-hour fitness to Orange Theory for franchisee side, franchisor side, you name it. It's always been sales, and a good deal of that is what we call organic marketing, which is just getting out in your community, for lack of better effort. So we're going to do the 3 keys, because I like the keeping us on track. 3 keys to successful organic marketing. And this could be during a pre-sale or just any time. Would you agree?
Yeah, for the most part, it should always be going.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like when we look at marketing overall to set the landscape, let's just say you've got a tub of water and that's all your marketing efforts are pooled together in that. Then you've got maybe 6 faucets, right, that are pouring into that tub. And really, you need to be working all of them at some capacity at all times. Would you agree?
It should be layered. It shouldn't be one thing. Otherwise, that's a recipe for disaster.
Right. And when we look at, like, most people lean on digital, as we know, and I think that's the natural thing to do, because it's like it's inbound, right? You just sit in your office and essentially play catch. Sure. But as we've seen, and I've been in the business for a long time, and so have you, digital marketing is kind of it's like this dark art. It's always a moving target. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's not as great. It's just the nature of the beast. And it's one of like 6 fountains of, faucets, if you will, of marketing. So we're going to talk about a few that fit into the organic side. So not just digital, right? And we've done a podcast similar to this before. We've got different playbooks, but I wanted to have you on because you've done a lot of it, not only for our brand, but for others. And so I have 3 things listed. I'll call them out, and then you just tell me what we're talking about. So I'm not sure this is a verb, but the first one you gave me that I wrote down is called flyering.
Flyering. It's even when you type it out, you're like, that doesn't look right.
It doesn't even look good. I wrote it down. I'm like, I know I didn't spell that right. I don't know if there is a way to spell it. But so what do you mean by flyering?
It coming from, and I asked this in franchise training now, who remembers selling something before Facebook or Instagram? So being in a pre-sale, probably late 90s, early 2000s, before Facebook hit it big and before Instagram hit it big, you had to do basic things on a daily basis to say, hey, how am I going to drive revenue, or how am I going to drive traffic into my facility, because I'm fighting for my own food. Like, I got to do the things I want to do.
Right.
Even when I went into the franchise model for Orange Theory and owner for those locations, if I knew I could hand someone a stack of flyers and say, hey, you need to get out 1,000 flyers today, and I could do that multiple times in a month as a point of contact. It's simple. It's easy. You can...
Don't knock the table.
Oh, sorry.
It all shows up.
It all shows up.
It's really hard to...
Sorry. It's simple.
Adam thinks with his hands as I do, or speaks with his hands. I mean, so he's beating the table to death. I'm like, all that's coming out on the podcast. So,
it's simple. It's easy. It gives you the ability to say, hey, what are the places in my area where my members go that I may need to attract that I can't get inside my facility, because I don't, for the most part, don't want to go door to door because it's going to take me forever. So shopping malls, grocery stores, plazas, whatever it may be. I used to plan my flyering around during Christmas, the day before Christmas and the day after Christmas for big shopping plazas, because I know people were returning things. But Old school days, I would sit down with my sales associates and say, listen, yeah, you got to get out 1,000 flyers today. Go. And you think about the cost of being able to do something like a direct mail or old school, like a Velasquez or something like that. If I know I can set aside 2 hours, 3 hours out of the day to say, hey, you need to go flyer and get these things out. What an easy way to get multiple points of contact. I'll give an example of Old Town that just opened up this past month.
Where they're in Arlington?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Virginia, by the way.
They're to say they're health club people and like this is their first time opening a business, first time working in a
Russ
sales
is a
role.
lobbyist, right? Yep.
Man, they got out every single day and got out somewhere between 500 to 1,000 flyers every single day. And we were just having this conversation to say, hey, if I'm not getting enough appointments, if I'm not getting enough people ringing the phone, door swinging, phones ringing, it's an easy way for me to get points of contact out there to say, I'm going to interact with as many people as possible, as fast as I can possibly do, and also for cost effective wise as I possibly do. I'll give a story of me for the first OTF we opened. Man, we were in the middle of winter storm Chicago 2006, 2007. 30 degrees outside, had snowed 1.5 feet the day before. Everything started melting. I got on my jacket and I went outside as an owner and I started flyering for 6 or 7 hours. Got 3 or 4 people from it. You're not going to rule the world by flyering, but you think of a low-cost way to go out and get points of contact and drive points of contact. Because like to your point, so many people think of one mode of communication. I'm going to sit on digital because the rest of it's hard. But it should be layered. And I say this during the call before people come to franchise training now. I should be able to say, I flyered, then I did an event, then I flyered some more, then I did a social media post, then I saw you business to business, then I did my pre-sale and my digital went live. So I have 5, 6, 7 different points of contact during that time frame where it's not just, hey, here's my digital, come join. Being able to participate in sales and health clubs before we have internet and before we had health clubs or before we had Facebook and Instagram. Man, every day you got to wake up and try to figure out how you're going to solve this problem. And being able to keep doing things repeatedly, getting out 1,000 flyers a day. If you can get out 10,000 flyers in a month, my Lord, that's amazing. Like,
right.
It's points of contact. And I wish we did a better job. If someone who's never participated in a health club before can go out and get out 500 to 1,000 every other day and then open above 90, like that's a win.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I mean, they did at a healthy pre-sale.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. And I think being able to say on a day-to-day basis, can I get these flyers out? And, old school days, bosses used to sit down with me and be like, listen, go flyer. But I think it's an easy way to get as much marketing materials out if you do it smart. And yes, and I think this is the big thing. People kind of say, well, I don't want to aggravate people. Well, you're going to get that one person who you aggravated, but you probably will get 3 or 4 who want to join.
Yeah, I just don't buy that. Heaven forbid you aggravate someone into getting into a healthier place, right?
Correct.
I mean, I think that's an excuse. It's head trash
to not do.
And preconceived notion about what the other person is thinking. You have to kill that. You really do, right? And there's no better way to kill it than to get reps.
Yep. A good example of that is, being in LA, flyering, getting people to come join our clubs. Having our sales associates go out and flyer, and you'd have someone come in and say, why did you flyer my car? How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, great, cool. You interested in gym membership? And I'd just go right into it. And that's old school days. But I think to your point, like people always go least path of resistance.
Right.
So I can't do that because it'll bother people, or
right.
I can't do that because it's going to take time, or I can't do that because it's hard.
Right.
And like you have to do the hard things in small businesses.
Is there any like particular? I mean, you mentioned earlier finding a business as a like clientele, which we talk about a lot for B2B. But would this be something you're talking about shoppers, like even the ideal day to be out, all of those things. Do you have any ideas on where to go to do those things?
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
grocery stores, like give us some like examples of what was successful.
I would always gravitate to grocery stores and local shopping plazas. I would stay away from malls because malls tend to be hubs where people go to from a bunch of different directions. Unless it's a day after Christmas or a day before Christmas. This is why you don't see many health clubs inside of malls because people don't want to go deal with that.
Right.
I would stay around local grocery stores. I would stay around local restaurants. I would stay around local plazas, meaning strip malls, not giant malls.
Yeah, your own could be a great place to start.
Train stations. If you have a local train station close to your facility where people have to go to work every day,
Northern Jersey, we've got some folks up there. Yep.
Nail it as much as you possibly can. Yep. Yeah. Those are winners.
Okay. Any tricks of the trade on how to hand out a flyer to someone? I know it sounds silly, but maybe there are people listening who are like, how do I even breach the subject? You can't just it's not like you're in Vegas and they do that little card flip and they hand you the place for the strip joint. It's not that. So how do you do it?
To be honest, the best I've ever seen do this was a lady who was one of our sales associates for Orange Theory, and she was no fear whatsoever. It's all about how you phrase when you're handing out something to someone. A lot of times you'll see younger sales associates or younger people who've owned business be like, hey, do you want to take a flyer? And of course, the person's going to say, no.
No thanks, yeah.
You immediately go, hey, take your flyer, free session. Like you have to bridge it like that to be able to say, hey, this is how you bridge that conversation. Because if you give that person an option to not take the flyer, they're not going to take the flyer.
Yeah, it's like getting to the end of a starting point session, which is our in-person, and saying, well, do you want to sign up? No, you just say, hey, 3 days a week is what I suggest, blah, blah, blah. Ready to roll? Let's start. Yeah, it's an assumption, right? The assumption that you can help them and that they're going to sign up. It always reminds me of, I've mentioned this a million times on the podcast, but Cameron Harold, who famously helped build 1-800-GOT-JUNK, when he first started there as the COO, he got in a car with a guy and he was going to go do a route and see kind of what their job was. And he said, I spent like half a day out there. And he's like, at the end of the day, it was like we're moving stuff from one place to another. I mean, that's the business, right? So we got to build a really good culture and we got to, up our marketing game. That's it. And so he has a story of one of his best franchisees, coming to him and being like, hey, what's next for digital? Like what's coming up? Like, what are we doing for digital? And he said, I famously told him, like, because they have wrapped vehicles. Park in a busy parking lot, hand out more flyers. And he's like, yeah. But what's coming down the pipe for the new Ninja digital stuff? And he just pauses and he's like, park in a busy parking lot, hand out more flyers. So he's really just coaching him to more effort, you know, and that was one of his better franchisees, right? It wasn't like he was like, scolding him. He was just saying, do more of this. Do more of what works. I know it has a 4-letter word in it, which is work, but you need to do that, right?
Yeah, and I think, like, to your point, same as before, people want to go least path of resistance sometime. But we all get to that point sometime where we're like, oh, man, digital's going great. I'm just going to chill on this. But, man, you could have a little bit more. Like, you could have just a little bit more.
Well, and you're also teaching yourself, like, in the Alloway model, we can have, if you do a good job servicing people, you can have a really low churn. So if you want to have like a low marketing spend in the future, which means more profitability for if you're doing a profit share with your director for them as well. Like in our corporate location, we only churned out one person last month. So it was like 99.3% retention, right? Well, Kian, who's our director there, who we had on the podcast a couple weeks ago, he just goes out and does a couple of small events, hands out a few flyers.
Why would you spend
easily replaces that person, if not a few more. Like we're full there, but like he still keeps it rolling. So when you're in like a pre-sale, as an example, you might get a ton of digital leads and it might be easy to sit on it. But what you're robbing yourself of is the ability to build the skill set that could keep your business full in the future, because you're learning how to be resilient and how to hand out flyers, bringing down all those negative barriers in your head, all those things. So I just feel like just do it, even though digital might be killing and that may be enough. You need the skills that are going to come with getting out in your community.
You say something that's unbelievably important there. And a lot of times, and I can give an experience of me, the first club I ever worked in as a 26, 27-year-old was a high volume club. High volume. So you really could just sit there and be like, tour, join.
Right.
And I'm like, this is easy. And then as you get better at it and you oversee multiple clubs and you have one that may not be performing the way it should be, and it may be no fault or just slower traffic facility, learning how to do that dirt part of it, it makes you completely resilient to whatever digital is, because it doesn't become a conversation of, well, digital's just not working. Well, what are the other things you're doing? That's how you really repair your business, or that's how you really drive your business. Doing the little dirt things layered to say, hey, this digital is just helping me a little bit, but look at all these other things I got going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not doing them. It's also sort of how you do them, right? So, like, that's just effort. Like, pick a goal. What do you think would be a fair goal for an alloy? Let's just say in a pre-sale, would it be 1,000 flyers a day?
I'm ridiculous. I'm ridiculous.
Okay.
So I pushed it on people, but I think if you're getting out somewhere between 1,000 to 1,500 a week for us,
okay,
that would be
enough
better.
Okay.
Very beneficial. Very
right.
beneficial.
And we always have franchisees bring 2 people to training.
Yep.
So during pre-sale, when there's nothing to do but sell, you could have one person out flyering and one person handling digital. I mean, you can divide and conquer. You could do both flyering and then also handle digital. I mean, there's a million ways you could do it.
You really think about it. I mean, 150 flyers a day, 200 a day.
Right.
It's pretty manageable.
Yeah.
Agreed. Pretty manageable.
Cool. The next one, and this is so funny. Like when I read these, I'm like, really? I mean, but referrals. And look, it's a thing that like everybody gets, but I think very few people consistently ask, and I'll add consistently ask well. Would you agree?
Yes, and I think that's the hard part of it. Yeah,
right.
Asking it properly.
Right. Now, we talked a little bit. It's interesting because, we have a million conversations around all of these items that we're talking about now, in our water fountain conversations or in meetings or whatnot. And it is a little bit interesting in our model, right? And I don't want to say this to set it up to say that it's not easy to get referrals, because we're like, start by asking. Like, if you're not doing that, you have no idea, right? Yeah, exactly. But based on the fact that it's personal training and it's expensive, I think there may be some barriers, right? So it's not just like come join a party. It's more like it's all about the person that's in there. So if I'm in there and it's all about me and it's personal training, I may be less apt to refer someone than I would be if it was a class-based concept where it was just like a party going on, right? What are your thoughts on that? Or is that just like, I hesitated to even say that, but also I think it's worth the discussion.
The effort of it. Yeah,
I just don't want people to hear it as an excuse to not ask.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on it?
We were talking about that, and then I brought it up a little bit. Trey Eli, sometimes when you're asking for referrals, people do hesitate a little bit. Either the fact that it's just theirs. This is me. I want to pay attention to this
personal
time.
Training. Right?
This is me. This is my time. Our people are busy. Or the people they may be referring, not sure if they're a good fit for kind of what we do.
Right. You mean from like a price threshold standpoint?
Price structure.
Yeah. So, okay, like I spend $400 a month on this.
It's relative.
I have a friend. I don't think they would spend this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that type of thing.
But for me, and I think you bringing up Haynesbridge with Kean, especially when you get to that level of 120, 130 members inside of your facility, you may have a group that's been together for 2 years, 2.5 years, being able to bridge that conversation to say, hey, Susie's leaving. Who knows somebody who would be a good fit?
Yeah, and that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Right, because then you say, listen, we need to replace Susie, and they're having a going away party for her. That's how tight these groups get. I can turn on the marketing and just slot somebody in, or do you guys have somebody? And if you do that, they normally like, wait, don't put anybody else in here. I've got a perfect friend that I think would be awesome here. And they want to keep their group together, and add somebody to that fits what they think is their group. Again, it's not as tribal as we're making it out. We know we could put anybody in there and make it work, but it's just the perception that they could bring somebody in that's like them, that's a good fit for their group, right?
The other part of that, which is a question I used to have my directors who were selling PT before, I would ask people during the Peel the Onion needs assessment part of it, do you have a support network? Hey, do you have a support network? And believe it, 99% of the time people say, no, I don't have a support network. I'm doing this on my own. I'm trying to figure this out. I have friends who work out. And being able to bridge that conversation where I would say, hey, do you have a support network? And they would go, no. And I'd go, well, either we can be that support network, or who do you know would like to benefit from this as well too, who can come in and help you and be a part of that? And their face lights up. It's a different approach to be able to say, hey, you just need some support. Who do you know would want to help you? And that can be an interesting conversation to be able to say, hey, who do you know? Who could we have come in? Who's a referral for what you want to do? Because they're going to be helping you as well too. There's nothing more awkward than if you're at a high-end facility or a training facility like we do or what we do, and at the end of that conversation, someone slides a sheet over to you and says, hey, can you fill this out and give me some referrals?
No, that's not going to work. It's got to be relational. Right? Yeah, it's not as transactional. But you can also, I do believe we've talked about this as well, but it's worth restating, is that there are opportunities to ask for referrals. One is when someone first signs up.
Sure.
So you said, what's your support system? And I like the way that's framed versus like bring me people, right? Because people are never as excited as they are day one.
Moment.
Once it becomes 5 years, part of their life, it's just like brushing their teeth. I mean, you're not running off and telling people you brushed your teeth. You just do it because you know it's good for you, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I did, by the way. I'm just saying, I brushed the shit out of my teeth. Did a really good job. But also other times for referrals, like when someone has reached a milestone, they've lost weight, it's a congratulations. Like, hey, just as a side note, I can tell you're super excited. Is there anybody else in your life that you think could benefit from this?
Yeah,
right. Because if they're as cool as you, we'd love to have them. Right? Yeah.
And it comes back to that conversation of personal training. Like there is a person there, you're helping them. I'm sure they know people that you can help as well too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mentioned this before, where the guy who basically built the culture at the Ritz-Carlton.
Yep.
He said he would go in on the first day of training for like the service staff. So these are people that are cleaning rooms and whatnot. And he would say to them, we are a group of ladies and gentlemen, serving a group of ladies and gentlemen. Basically like same. Yeah. It's not like, we're these lowly
and you're there
room cleaners. And it's like, no. We're people. We're ladies and gentlemen. And then we're going to go help ladies and gentlemen and just sort of reframe the nature of the relationship. That's how I feel about training. It's like, I'm here to help you. You're participating in my business and allowing me to help you. Like, let's do this for more people, right? It's just like team effort, right?
Yep.
So it's a different mindset than like do this strictly for the sake of me growing my business.
Correct.
Like it has to. If you just approach it with a different mindset, there's 1,000 opportunities to have these conversations.
But think about it to your point of that. How many places do you go into where it feels like it's just for the sake of helping my business? All the time. And if you're able to slow that process down and really take a look at who's across from you and say, my God, you're doing great. Like, you're doing great. Like, I'd love to have somebody in here with you. Like, do you know somebody who could do as well as you? Like, how does that feel?
Right.
Like,
I love working with people like you. Do you have anybody you think could benefit?
It has a different feel to it.
Yeah,
it has a different feel to it.
Well, it's personal, right? I mean, and I think if you keep that lens on every conversation that you have, you're going to be better off.
Yeah. Yep.
The last one that you have is open house. What do you mean by that?
Now, Matt and I, on the pre-sale part of it now, we require people do 2 open houses during their pre-sale. That should never stop. If someone's doing an open house every single month, we have this conversation about having invite a friend workouts or invite a friend weeks as well too. Being able to have an open house. And here's the thing, and it's a perfect example. I was in a location here about 2 weeks ago, and they're doing very well. But I can guarantee you, because I walked into the gas station that was next door, people didn't even know the name of the place that was in the plaza. I was like, have you guys been in Alloy Personal Training? They're like, what? You can have a business for 5-10 years, and you can walk 2 blocks, and people will be like, I didn't even know you were there. So being able to, one, have your community show up for that open house, so your members, but also bring a friend, RSVP it so you know they're coming, have something offered inside of that open house so it's a draw for people to come in, but then repeat that process over and over and over again. One, you're building community constantly. You're inviting your members in to do something besides the workout. It's a third place, something different besides just a workout. Now they're bringing their friends. You're extending that range of awareness inside of your bubble of your area. You're getting the opportunity to get in front of people you probably would not be in front of. Yes, you can have vendors there. Yes, you can do this. Yes, you can provide a service.
You can change the themes every month. You can make it so you can do a wine mixer.
Make it a brunch, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you can change it every single month.
For 2 different fold reasons. One, we know as well as we have to keep our members engaged something different besides the workout because it's community. Now, it goes back to that conversation of support network and having people come in that are like-minded and having people who can come in and kind of we can help them and change their lives. Being able to extend that net and extend that marketing to say, hey, I'd like to have people I normally would not see in front of me come in and possibly I can help them and change their lives. Hey, for me, and I did for my facilities, man, every week I had coffee in the morning for everybody on Saturdays. I handed out flowers on Mother's Day. I handed out flowers on Valentine's Day. I did my best once a month to provide something that was a different aspect of what they would get at another facility, or a different aspect to generate movement inside of my facility that had nothing to do with working out. So Matt says this all the time. Working out's hard. People, for the most part, they want to change, but working out's hard. So how can I create an environment where people can bring other people in, but have conversations about what I do as an opportunity just to have them inside of my facility? Having an open house, having a breakfast inside of your facilities, being able to invite vendors inside of your facilities, have a seminar inside of your facility once a month. Open houses in our model, man, I'd run one every month.
Yeah,
every month.
Interesting. We have a franchisee, Mike Arce, who owns Loud Rumor, and he's a brilliant marketer. And he's doing some paid advertising strictly to get someone to an event. And it would be, you think about our customer avatar, like how to stay fit over 40, right? And he'll just run a full-on seminar and teach like the science of it and what the latest, greatest is. And it just aligns perfectly with what we do because that's who we are, right? So that would be an example of having an open house. Like they're coming. Do you have any friends that could benefit from that? So you can even do it around popular things. We have a lot of franchisees that bring in experts on pelvic floor strength and hormones and all these other things that are really relevant to our clientele, but that becomes an open house, right? But you have to promote it. They need to bring friends, right? Have a hook there. Hey, by the way, there's a drawing here, name and number to get in, right? You're registered. I'm going to draw for a free month of training or a free personal training session or half off, whatever the hook is, right? And then, by the way, everybody else on the list gets called, and you're like, hey, it was so great to meet you the other day.
By the way.
You didn't win, but I'm willing to extend this and just have like your normal offer go out to them. Right?
It's something to your point there, too, as well, too, is we always talk about leveraging email lists. If you're having somebody come in to do something, make sure they're promoting it on their platforms as well, too.
You mean like a vendor?
Yeah,
of course. That's the reason you have vendors, and you require them to post on their social media, and you require them to let their customers know. Also, they want somebody to come by and see them. So you're saying, hey, we're going to be at Alloy Personal Training on Saturday. Swing by and say hello. We'd love to meet you in person. And they'll be offering giveaways.
For sure.
Right?
I think the biggest mistake, though, people make with open houses is they underprepare. They go, hey, we're going to have an open house. And it's like, okay, show up, don't show up. We're going to be talking about TRX. Let everybody show up. And it's like, I wouldn't show up to that.
Yeah, you got to have music, giveaways, food. I mean, it's just so small, but get together like you're having a party at your house. Basically.
If you're not planning it, you're not prepared.
Right.
So being able to say, hey, everybody in that facility, your director, your head coach, they have to be invested in bringing that up and what it's going to be inside and bringing people in. Owner, if you're an active owner inside facility, you need to be invested in what this is. A lot of times, and you'll hear people, it happens in everything. Hey, we just didn't get a good response from it. And when I hear that, I tend to say, well, you didn't plan it well. Like if you didn't get the response you want, that lead up to planning what that open house is probably wasn't the best of how you planned for that open house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, agreed. All right. So third was open house, and then you wanted to put a bonus in here, and it is a bonus word, and that word is effort. Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I think we talk about this a lot inside the corporate office as well, too. Like, what's the level of effort we're putting into something? And I'll give kind of an explanation of even when I was coaching, I would send to people, whatever you think the normal effort is, give me 10% more. So if you're going to do these things, if you're going to flyer, if you're going to do open houses, if you're going to ask for referrals, putting the proper amount of effort in place to be able to make that happen is hard. So if you're going to tell me, hey, I went and flyered, I did it one time this month, we got out 300 flyers. Yeah, it just doesn't work. I'm not going to do it anymore. I will immediately go back to, well, I used to do it daily for 1,000. So it would be, and we talked about this analogy, it would be like telling Tom Brady, hey, you're going to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time, but I only want you to throw one pass a day. Right. I only want you to line up and throw one pass a day, and you're going to win the Super Bowl. Nothing works that way. So my mindset when I started in health clubs was I was just going to outwork everybody till I knew what I was doing. Once you outwork everybody and know what you're doing, the things become easier. But if you think on a day-to-day basis that you're going to participate in something one time or participate in something at 40% and you want 100% return, you're going to be disappointed.
So
every single time.
Do you see that often? Even maybe some of our clubs is like, hey, here's the things you need to do. It's uncomfortable. It can be difficult to learn to do community marketing. I go do it once. There's a level of discomfort. I'm not great at it because I haven't done it yet.
Issue.
Right?
Yeah.
And look, it's always a beginner's mentality. You're going to have to, if you try any new venture, you should enter that new venture assuming that you're not going to be that great at it, and it's going to take a lot of work to get good at it. And that just means reps, right?
Yeah.
So do you see that often where people go and they do one thing,
sure,
and then they're like, okay, that didn't work, and then they just throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Yeah. I think you see there's a lot of what's the magic pill? What's the one thing
that's going to blow up my
doors? And I'm like, there is no one thing.
It's a collective.
You got to do everything.
Yeah.
So I enjoy, and we talk about this as well, I enjoy the dirt. I enjoy the dirt of work. Like, how do I get to where I want to go so I can figure this out and problem solve?
Right.
So if you're going to do an open house or you're going to do flyer or you're going to ask for referrals, set an expectation of what that is and keep doing it. Don't just wake up every day to what you just talked about. I brushed my teeth once.
Right.
My teeth are clean this month. No, that's not how that works. That's not how it works.
Right.
You got to brush your teeth every day. So I think of pre-sale, and I explain this to everybody this way, pre-sale and marketing for your health club and sales in general is if like it's the fourth quarter of the NBA Finals. There's 2 minutes left. I'm down by 1. I'm going to have to sprint for this next 3 months, these next 2 minutes, forever for the next year to get to where I want to go. How do I just not eat this? I want to eat all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be, hey, 2-minute drill. Hey, it's the fourth quarter. Let's go. And I explained this to a franchisee just recently on the phone. It is a sprint until you're at 1:30, a sprint. So if you think you're going to magically do something one time or do it once a year and you're going to get something of it and then immediately say it doesn't work, well, that just, to me personally, just doesn't make sense. So if I'm going to decide, hey, I'm going to make my team flyer, good, let's do it for 6 months. Go. Flyer every day, get out 500 flyers, see how the return is on it. If you're going to do it one time and go, we didn't get anything, then everything you do is you're not going to get anything.
Well, and you think about that mentality, if you do it one time, you're also doing it when you're not really that great at it. So you haven't even given yourself the opportunity to get good with reps. So you're going in as a rookie, probably have some head trash if you're honest around like, if this is going to work or not. Fear would be a great way to put it. And then if you use that as your test, right, and you're like, this just doesn't work, then you're literally putting yourself in the worst circumstances and then judging whether the thing works. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just one of these things where it sounds so cliche and people are like, yeah. But it really is just a matter of working hard and keeping going and keep going.
You know, and I think bringing that up and then having conversations, Matt and I have conversations all the time, people generally will gravitate, just human nature. What's the least path of resistance? Right. So I don't feel comfortable doing this. So it didn't work. I'm not going to do this. And we talked about this 10, 15 minutes ago. Small businesses are hard. Like, it's hard. You're going to be working. And being able to say, hey, I may need to get a little uncomfortable sometimes and get out of my comfort range. And is that going to work for me? You better figure it out.
Well, and the thing is that let's go back to the Tom Brady analogy. When he was a rookie,
Man,
I mean, when he dropped back to pass and all these giant people were running, trying to take his head off, it probably looked like chaos, right?
for sure.
And they would simplify the playbook for him and everything. But you look at like he got enough reps in, and maybe he's in year 7 now. And he's standing there at the line of scrimmage, and this one guy is looking like he's going to blitz, and he's like, I've seen this a million times. If that guy comes in, this guy's going to go there. I'm going to throw it to this guy. And it's just like bam, bam, bam. And everything slows way down. Business is very similar, right? Yeah. But the only way you get there is reps and effort.
Yeah. And I think that's for me, from what I used to do when I was coaching to this, I love process and understanding reps and like how do we get here.
I forgot you coached college athletics.
How do we get to the point of A to B and where we're going? But I think we all kind of live in that especially inside health clubs, we all live in that competitive sports-minded reality. Mm-hmm. And if you were to sit down and have a conversation with a very good athlete and an elite athlete, those conversations are going to be drastically different. I'm very talented. I work. The elite athlete, I never stop. I keep going. You hear those stories of people, and this is getting off a little bit, but you hear these stories of like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan lifting weights at 3 a.m, 3 to 8, and then I go to practice and I do this and I do that, and it's reps. If you're going to come into a business and think, hey, I may not get uncomfortable or do the hard things to make these things happen, that's going to be a challenge. Like, it's going to be a challenge. Like,
that's one of the things that I've loved about being in small business and being an entrepreneur.
I control.
Well, I control it, but I also like the opportunity to grow. And I think if you're wired that way and you're willing to be a rookie at something and learn it over time, you'll get used to that. And in a lot of ways, you'll learn to crave it. Like, I love to learn new things.
Without it.
Yeah, and so I love to be slightly uncomfortable, like a little bit out over my skis, right? You got to work to keep up, and I feel like you then earn the right by stacking skills. So,
sure.
I've said this a million times on here, but, entrepreneurship is a self-help journey disguised as a business. So, like, if you look at it through that lens and you get out and you just do the work, what you're also doing is giving yourself the opportunity to learn and to become a different person, certainly a different entrepreneur, right, over time. It's a good mindset to have.
Yeah, and like I said, it comes back to really kind of the point of the effort part of it. Like, if you're going to do something, do it multiple times. Keep going. Don't stop. See the wall. Run through it. You can't go back and say, hey, I did something one time and it didn't work, because that doesn't work for anybody. Like, it just doesn't.
That never works, by the way.
Correct.
All right, cool. So that was your bonus effort, Adam. Appreciate it. Anything else to add?
No, love being on here.
Yeah, man. Well, you've got a face for radio, so
I won't hit the table anymore.
Yeah. Very demonstrative with his language.
You stopped and went, don't hit the table.
Well, I've done it. I used to do it. It's like I'd be drumming the table as I talked, and all you could hear on the podcast was sound like a whole bunch of kids were running through the room. So
yeah.
We'll definitely have you back on, man. I appreciate you.
Love it. Thank you so much.
All right, peace.